Okay, we're rolling. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stories for Hope, Healing, and Belonging. We're very excited to have Betty Baker here as our guest reader for our drag story time. So thank you so much, Betty. And I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything, and otherwise we'll just dive into the stories and we can have a conversation afterwards. Okay, so turning it over to you, Betty.
Hi everyone, I'm Betty, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today. Oh no, okay, there we go. Alrighty, so our first story we have today is Our Rainbow by the Little Bee Books Project. Hi friends, black, brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. These are the colors of our rainbow flag. Do you know what they stand for? Black and brown are for diversity and inclusivity. Diversity and inclusivity are what give us strength and beauty. Red is for life. Let's celebrate ourselves and the people around us every day. Orange is for healing. Sometimes we might hurt someone's feelings. When this happens, we should say sorry and do something nice for them. Yellow is for sunlight. Don't hide in the shadows. Come out and play in the warmth and light of the sun. Green is for nature. Our green world is full of beauty. Its plants, trees, and animals inspire us. Blue is for harmony. Let's try our best to get along with others, even if they might be different to us. Purple is for spirit. Within each of us is a beautiful and unique spirit. Let's celebrate it together. So that's our rainbow. That's wonderful. Our second book today is Worm Loves Worm by J.J. Austrian and illustrated by Mike Curato. Worm loves Worm. Let's be married, says Worm to Worm. Yes, answers Worm, let's be married. Wait, says Cricket, you'll need someone to marry you. That's how it's always been done. I'll marry you. Now, can we be married? Asks Worm. Wait, says Beetle. You've got to have a best beetle. Naturally, that would be me. Now, can we be married? Asks Worm. Wait, say the bees. You need bride's bees. Can we be the bride's bees? Please, please, please. Yes, says Worm. Now, can we be married? You'll need to have rings to wear on your fingers, says Cricket. That's how it's always been done. But we don't have fingers, says Worm. We can wear them like belts, says Worm. Wonderful, says Worm. Now we can be married. Just make sure to have a band so we can dance, says Beetle. But we don't have feet to dance with, says Worm. We can just wiggle around, says Worm, like this. Fun, says Worm. Now we can be married. But you still need a white dress, a tuxedo, a top hat, lots and lots of flowers, and a cake with frosting, say the bees. But we don't have heads for hats, says Worm, or hands to hold flowers. And we only eat dirt, says Worm. Wait, says Spider. I can attach the hat and flowers to you with my sticky web. Thanks, thank you, say Worm and Worm. But who will eat the cake? Asks the bees. I can eat cake along with Cricket and Beetle, says Spider. What did you say? Asked Cricket and Beetle. Nothing, says Spider with a smile. Now we can be married, says Worm. But which one of you is the bride? Asks the bees. How can we be bride's bees if we don't know who the bride is? I can be the bride, says Worm. I can too, says Worm. But one of you has got to be the groom, or else how can I be the best beetle? Asks Beetle. I can be the groom, says Worm. I can too, says Worm. We can both be. Amazing, says Spider. Really? Asks the beetle and the bees. Wait, says Cricket. That isn't how it's always been done. Then we'll change how it's done, says Worm. Yes, says Worm. And so they were married because Worm loves Worm. Oh, isn't that just such a fun story? I love that one. And our third story today is It Feels Good to Be Yourself, a book about gender identity, written by Teresa Thorne and illustrated by Noah Gringy. This is Ruthie. She is a transgender girl. That means that when she was born, everyone thought she was a boy, until she grew a little older, old enough to tell everyone that she's actually a girl. Girl is Ruthie's gender identity. This is Ruthie's brother, Xavier. Xavier is a cisgender boy. That means that when Xavier was born, everyone thought he was a boy, and as he grew older, it turns out everyone was right. He is a boy. Boy is Xavier's gender identity. There are so many different ways to be a boy or a girl, too many to fit into a book. But not everyone feels like either a boy or a girl. Non-binary is a helpful word that can describe a kid who doesn't feel exactly like a girl or a boy. This is Ruthie's friend, Alex. Alex is both a boy and a girl. When Alex was born, everyone thought Alex was a girl, but Alex is both boy and girl. This is Alex's gender identity. This is Alex's friend, JJ. JJ is neither a boy nor a girl. Ever since JJ was very little, they never felt exactly like a boy or a girl. They just feel like themselves. This is JJ's gender identity. Alex and JJ are both non-binary. Just like there were many ways to be a boy or a girl, there are many different ways to be non-binary. Too many to fit into a book. Some kids feel like girls, some kids feel like boys, some kids feel a little bit of both, part boy, part girl. Some kids don't feel exactly like a boy or a girl, they just feel neither. Some kids feel that their gender identity isn't always the same, it's often changing. And even with all these possible ways to be, some kids don't feel like any of the words they know fit them exactly right. There are a never-ending number of ways to be yourself in the world. Whether you feel like a boy, a girl, both, or neither, or if you describe yourself another way, that is your gender identity. Your gender identity might match what people thought you when you were born, or it might not. See, when you were born, you couldn't tell people who they were or how they felt. They looked at you and they made a guess. Maybe they got it right and maybe they got it wrong. What a baby's body looks like can be, when they're born, can be a clue to what the baby's gender will be, but not always. When people guess wrong, it's okay to let them know. Ruthie was 5 when she told her parents, "I know you think I'm a boy, but I really feel like a girl." Oops, Ruthie was a girl all along. They just didn't know it at first. When people guess right, it's also okay to let them know. Xavier was 3.5 when he told his family, "I'm a boy. I like being a boy." You might feel like a boy, you might feel like a girl, you might feel like both boy and girl, or like neither. You might feel like your gender changes from day to day or from year to year. You might feel like none of these words describe you perfectly. You might not be sure yet. Maybe you're still figuring it out. Your feelings about your gender are real. Listen to your heart. No matter what your gender identity is, you are okay exactly the way you are, and you are loved. It feels good to be yourself, doesn't it? Well, that's such a lovely book about gender identity too. Thank you so much for having me and having me present these books. I had such a great time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Betty Baker. That was really lovely. What beautiful stories. I don't know if anyone feels like they'd like to share what's kind of lingering with them from any of those stories or any questions that you have that we could discuss together.
I loved all of the books. So Betty, thanks very much for reading them. It was great. It was lovely to meet. I love the all three of them. I can't say I love Worm Loves Worm is such isn't it just a fun celebrating and how beautiful to explain love and to each other. I think the books, all three books, do a wonderful job. And of course, I love the Rainbow books and just celebrating everyone and the diversity of people. And I think that's the power, the beauty of these books, that they're celebrating everyone. And I just love them all.
Yeah, me too. I really loved in Worm Loves Worm, the worms were just trying to be so accommodating of their family and friends and, just trying to roll with it all. And just, I think that's how so many people experience marriage is like, there's a lot of opinions on the matter. And so they just kind of, accommodate until a certain point when they're like, no, you know what? It's okay. We're going to do it our way. I just thought that was such a beautiful way of showing how, inclusivity is something that we can all do. But there's a point where you have to assert your boundaries too, right? To say, this is how I'm going to live my life, and you're welcome to come and be part of that.
Yes, well said, Hannah. I was thinking the same thing about that story, that all the pressures from other people and likely people that you care about, and then to be able to try to take on what you can, and then like that important word you said, there's still this boundary to say, wait a minute, that we will still do it our way, and that we can try to take on some other people's perspectives, but then to still be okay to say, we'll do it this way. Yeah, and I think it was great to have this reminder that even with Worm and Worm, there really wasn't this idea about gender. It was just, they're just two worms. And how important of a message is that it's, we didn't have to figure all of that out. That's not even any part of it. It's just about love.
I loved that it's a children's book. I had to learn about all of this when I moved to Canada at 21, and the learning curve was just like, and I really appreciate having this be books that are accessible for kids, that make kids understand from a young age. That way, the way that they conduct themselves in schools will be different. They don't have to, there are kids who don't have to go through as much trauma as they've gone through in education, because you have kids who have an understanding that you can love who you love and you can be who you want to be, and that's okay. And you can feel confident in that and feel safe in that. And I think it's just, for me, it makes my heart really, really happy to know that kids can learn this from a really young age and not have to go through like years and years and years of unlearning like I'm having to do now. But it also gives an opportunity for people who are learning that you can start from a kid's book, and that might be your first step to understanding how everything works. So for me, it gives me a little bit of hope, and it makes me really happy to know that there's books that are catering to language that kids understand and are meeting them where they are and making it okay. So yeah.
I completely agree, Ropa. And I think it's also about giving them the language that they need to feel confident, right, at a young age. So I love that page in It's Okay to, I forget what it's called. It's okay to be yours. What is it called? It Feels Good to Be Yourself, where Ruth, I think, said, I know you think I'm a boy, but I really feel like a girl. And so Ruthie was a girl all along, and they just didn't know it yet. And I just think that that idea is just such an important one for families to understand, because I think we can spend, especially when you haven't had that introduction from a younger age, you can spend time thinking you know the way the world works and that it's black and white, right? And so I just think that that's such an empowering idea for a child to be able to say, it's not like you've done anything wrong, dear family. I know you love me, but just so you know, you were wrong. And now this is how I would like you to call me in the future. I just think that's such an empowering message for a young child or youth to be able to receive, as opposed to, yes, having to wait until later in life to think, oh, this is actually okay. I don't have to fit into the boxes that were put out there for me.
I think the book, particularly that book talking about gender, it's a beautiful book for a role modeling, and it's like it gives language to children and validates children and families. And I think when parents can read, like we say, we learn from children's books, You know, and at the back of that book, I mean, it wasn't, we weren't able to show it here, but at the back of that book, there are about 3 pages of resources of, you know, there's a glossary of terms and then resources for parents. And it's a lovely complete book. But I think it's a great resource and really helps parents as well, because to realize that their child is not the only child, that it validates and normalizes, you know what I mean? I don't like to use the word normal, but in a way it normalizes it. Just, this is life, and it's okay to that your child is not the gender that you thought your child was, and just loving and accepting them. And I think the book, I think for some parents who may be somewhat, you know, some parents would be fearful and just it's just not knowing, not having the information. And this book is giving that little information, but not overpowering, but opens the door for you to learn some more. And I think that's the beauty and the importance of these books.
And I think, like Ropa had mentioned, a lot of older adults like myself have a lot of unlearning to do. And so I appreciate a lot of these children's stories, because most of the time when we study and watch children, we learn so much. And so these matter-of-fact ways of being, and that these stories are the way that we should be living and all being better humans in that way. So we can all be learning together. I think it's so important, and every educator, every every teacher, every early childhood educator should be having these fabulous stories every day in their classroom and being part of their everyday practice, so that it becomes, this is the way the world needs to be.
May I'll add to that, the books are great for children who are maybe have questions that they can't answer themselves, but also really introduces the idea of allyship at a young age. You know, how can you support someone when you hear these comments, or step in? I have a question for Betty. It's such an honor and privilege to have you join us at our stories today. What was your experience like reading these stories today?
Well, I had a really great time reading these stories today. I think that all of the stories that I was sent by Mel and Hannah are really important, and they share really important messages that I wish I could have even had more as a kid. I'm only 17, so I'm part of a younger generation who is a lot more open and accepting, but there were still so many things that I didn't know until like later in my childhood that I wish I did know earlier on. Like I've just started exploring with my gender identity, and I think it's really important to give kids those tools and that knowledge at a young age so that they can be open with themselves and with their family and friends about how they feel on the inside. Because really, once you understand yourself better, then you can understand the world around you better. And I think that's super important.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know if anyone has any last reflections to share. But that was really, really lovely. And we're really glad that you could be here. And thanks to everyone for your wonderful reflections as always. It's always a really nice part of this series, is to have this little dialogue after and share ideas and make connections that we might not have made the first through. So I know I'm looking forward to reading through these books again after this conversation and sharing them with every child that I know. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing you all again in a couple of weeks. And we'll find another few books to share that are as beautiful as these ones, hopefully. I know with Mel behind us, that's for sure. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.